Welcome back, folks, to the Membership Machine Show. This is episode 113, lucky 13. And in this show, we're going to do an ongoing review. We covered it last week of influencer marketing, the strategy behind it, tips and tricks, something you should consider if you're trying to start your membership website and get the wheel rolling. I've got my great co-host, Nicole, with me. So, Nicole, would you like to introduce yourself to the new listeners and viewers?
Sure, yeah. Hi, my name is Nicole Ouellette. I own a company called Technical Support, which is a marketing company, and I also have a couple of co-working spaces. So I've seen kind of small business from a couple of angles, and it's always great to talk to Jonathan about all things tech. So
marketing and tech, how to build your membership website, and then the important bit, how are you going to market it? So hopefully we'll give you some tips in this show. Oh dear, Nicole's a bit ill. Oh dear, yeah. She's still getting over her
still cold. Getting over a little bit of a cold I had a couple of weeks ago, so I will mute myself occasionally to
You're not the only one. I've got a couple of friends have fallen down with the cold. So like in this podcast, we're going to be covering all the things that you need to know about influencer marketing and how it might be one of the right tools in your quiver to get your membership website going, getting the wheel moving. Before we go into the real meat and potatoes, as we say in North London, I've got a message from one of our major sponsors. We will be back in a few moments, folks.
Hi there, e-commerce store owner. At Omnisend, we help more than 100,000 e-commerce customers just like you sell their products. We're an all-in-one email and SMS marketing platform that helps you reach your customers, grow your audience, and increase sales. In fact, our customers have seen incredible results with Omnisend, averaging $72 in revenue for every single dollar spent. And if you ever have a question, our award-winning customer support team is available 24/7 every single day. That's one of the reasons we have more than 6,000 glowing reviews and ratings all across the web. So get started with Omnisend today and start growing your business with better email and SMS marketing.
I get feedback from some of our listeners. They love my Cockney rhyming. So there we go. So, Nicole, I'm in your hands because I'm really not up to influencer marketing, really, but I know you know a lot. So how do we start the show, and what do you want to cover in this show that we didn't cover in the first half last week?
Yeah, so we talked last week about influencer marketing and kind of gave an overview, and kind of what I wanted to do was dig in a little bit and talk a little bit about some sort of case studies, because I think for a lot of people, we have a lot of experience with influencer marketing when it comes to products. Like,
well, you do.
Buy this pen. Well, you're on social media a bit. Are you saying you don't see any influencer marketing in your social media?
Well, I see other people do it, but I haven't done it. That's why I was interested in the covering it, because not only for benefit of our beloved tribe, but also I might consider a bit of it. But there we go. There we are, right. Nicole.
Well, and I think we're just so used to, like I said, seeing like, oh, like buy this pen or buy this like consumer product, that there are some kind of B2B applications as well. And so I wanted to, like I said, just kind of, everyone kind of, if you haven't listened to the last episode, that might be a good companion to this one, kind of gives the background of it. But we're going to this is kind of the sort of 201 level stuff, in my opinion. So first of all, I don't think we really fleshed this out, but if we look at sort of data over the last few years, we see that actually the cost of influencer marketing has actually gone down a little bit more over the last 2 years than it had been. In large reason, a lot of people speculate it's because there now exists user-generated content. And I can't remember how into that we got versus influencer marketing. I think we did talk about that pretty extensively. Do you remember, Jonathan, if we...
Well, maybe if you can give them a quick outline.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you see as the differences?
Yeah, so to me, so there's two different, when you think about people creating content for your brand, there's kind of two levels of it. One is called UGC, or user generated content. And that's the idea that, I like record a video of myself. It's typically a video, but it can also be still photo, interacting with your product. And maybe there's a series of them. Maybe it's just not a singular one, right? And I send that. So let's say Jonathan like hires me as a UGC content creator. I make a series of videos about his online membership program and I send them to him. And the idea is that I've created content and it is going to Jonathan's membership audience, but it is a real user interacting with the content. Now, an influencer campaign or a brand campaign, that is a little bit different, because not only are you creating the content, you're also sharing it with your audience. So you get that sort of augmented factor. And anybody who's ever tried to build an audience before knows how much work it is. So you're getting that added benefit. So working with an influencer versus working with someone on UGC content, an influencer is going to be more expensive because you're getting more. You're getting not only the content, but you're getting them putting it in front of their audience. I don't know if that was a good explanation. Do you have anything to add kind of to that to maybe clarify for people in case I'm talking too markety?
Well, let's recap. So I think you're saying what? So I've got the first one, the influencer, and he's got he or she or he has got their own tribe, and they use your product, and then they might talk about the product, how they use it. Where you lost me a little bit was the difference between that and the second group.
The user-generated content. Well,
Yes.
It's the idea that I'm making content, I'm interacting with your product, but rather than posting it to my channels, I'm sending it to you. You might use it in an ad. You might use it as part of your own social media content. So you're just getting like someone's, interaction with your brand or your product.
Oh, right. So I think what you're
you're not
saying
getting
is
that added benefit of their audience, so to speak.
right. And I think that I understand now, but I think that applies. Am I correct in surmising that would only work with somebody that has a large following? Does this apply to somebody who's got like a close relationship but a micro audience, hasn't got tens of thousands of followers, but the audience they've got a very tight relationship? Does especially the second part, does that apply?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the idea with UGC content is I don't post it to my channels. I'm just creating the content and I'm sending it to the brand for them to use, like I said, in their own marketing. So you're not getting the benefit of that audience. That said, what happened was there was all these kind of influencers doing brand deals, and UGC content is a little bit newer as an idea, because I think a lot of brands wanted real people working with their product, working with their service, and talking about it to be able to use, like I said, anybody who's ever had to maintain any kind of marketing channel knows how much work it is to come up with new content ideas. So this is a way of getting other people talking about your product, but they're doing it on your channels. So you're not getting that benefit of their audience with UGC. So is it into UGC content as a person than it is to become an influencer, because you have to build up your audience to do that.
So is it also linked to the concept that people on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, especially the first two I've mentioned, which I don't really do a lot. I don't do anything on TikTok I'm looking to do, and I certainly don't do anything on Instagram. Is it around having multiple people utilizing the product, or they send it to me? So you're trying to get people give the impression, or trying to serrate the impression, maybe that's a better way of putting it, that there's a movement, there's a flow of increased interest in your product and service. Am I on the right track, Nicole?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that is definitely a part of it. And the other part of it is, obviously, as people who have made, these membership platforms, for example, we have a certain way of talking about our products, but having our customers talk about it, we get a different vocabulary, we get different talking points, we get sort of their point of view as well. So, but absolutely, if you have a bunch of different people talking about how great your product is and you have video of them doing that, that kind of makes a compelling case.
Right. So where do we move on?
Right. Okay. So I wanted to kind of clarify that because I feel like I didn't do a good job talking about that last time. And like I said, now that UGC content exists, user generated content creation exists, that has driven down the prices of influencer campaigns, like overall. And we've seen this, you know, multiple places kind of in online studies. So kind of wanted to put that in people's heads if they were like, oh, you know, I kind of like that idea and maybe I want maybe a lower cost way of getting that kind of influence. Besides looking at influencers, you might want to also look at UGC content creators. But the other thing I wanted to bring up before we get into the case studies is that people do use influencers or, you know, or this idea of influencers or UGC content creators for B2B services and other kinds of, I guess what I mean more is like non, you know, consumer products, because I think most people listening to this show have a membership community or they're trying to have one, right? So I thought these two stats were really interesting that I pulled, and I linked to the article, but which is, and this is in, hold on, I'm just looking at which article this is in. Yeah, this is in the Is Online Comms article that I sent. But B2B buyers are looking at least 3 to 5 pieces of content before they contact the vendor. So they're looking at content ahead of time. So having content for them to look at, right, is going to help them make that purchase. But also, I thought that it was interesting that B2B decision makers are spending more than 70% of the purchase cycle engaging with content before ever reaching out to you. So not only are they looking at pieces of content, they're spending more than 70% of the time like looking at and engaging with the content before they even contact you. So I thought that like those were kind of two sort of compelling ideas to think about. And what I did was I pulled together 5 case studies and I kind of wanted to talk with you about them and see if you had some other kind of ideas about it and specifically how it would apply to membership. I don't know if that was fun for you.
Goody. All right, so goody yum yum. That's it will be nothing to you. Well, I think the monkeys used it, but it's when I was growing up. I was a little child in the 70s and early 80s. There was a BBC TV series called The Goodies, and that was their catchphrase. Goody yum yum. It was a kind of fantasy comedy series.
I mean, I like to think of this podcast as a fantasy comedy series. So,
some of my, hopefully, or you might look at it as a bit of a nightmare, Nicole. We don't know, do we? So, what do you want to do next, Nicole?
Yeah. So, okay. So this first case study I thought was interesting, and it's basically about this SAP, which does application software. And trust me, your online communities, I'm sure, are sexier than application software. But this SAP...
What is application software?
Well, it's a leader in application software, thousands of customers. SAP, come on, if we have a tech company, we just have to have an acronym that nobody entirely understands, right?
It seems to go with the territory, doesn't it, Nicole?
Right. So what I thought was interesting is they held an in-person conference, right? But part of their conference was they invited 5 influencers to actually speak at their event or to be at their event. And they talked about topics including machine learning, data analytics, and the event was trending in Germany for 2. So this was an event in Germany, and it was trending for 2 days, and it drove attendance up. The attendance drove 50% of all social media mentions. So I thought that it was interesting that they actually got influencers to present at an event as something to give the event traction. And like I said, it's one thing to see an influencer talk about a cup of coffee or something like that. But I thought that this approach was kind of interesting because, if you even attend an event in your industry, you don't even have to be the one putting on. Working with influencers and getting them there and talking about your event might be a really great way for you to get some traction. And
I've got some insights here.
yes, I kind of thought you would. That's why I want to talk about this. Tell me more.
Well, it must be now 3 years ago. I attempted to do a online conference where we were going to have some major speakers. I had Rob Rowling, who's well known as the podcast presenter of Startups for the Rest of Us. I had Hendrickson, who's the lead educator at Microsoft Learning. And I had Pat, Pat, forgot his second name. Sorry. Yes, I had Pat Flynn as well. And I had a host of other Fishkin from SEO.
Oh, yeah.
So I had some pretty big hitters.
I was going to say, some cool people.
Well, I do actually. They're personal. I do know some people that are personal friends. I would say Rob's coming on my other podcast tomorrow. Actually, he is a personal friend. So I had these people, friends and people I had cultivated, and I bought a package. I bought a package with a consultation, a consultant who had run other webinar conferences about the technology and how we should run it. And he sold the concept to me that the main speakers at the virtual conference would be the draw, the people that would be the headliners, but it would be the secondary speakers that would do the heavy lifting for us, plus I would do some of it, and they would promote the conference then they're going to be much more active in promoting it, not the big names. Pat, I actually had to pay him to be the lead. He was the lead speaker. The others I wasn't paying. They were doing it because they were friends of mine or I'd built a relationship with them. But it's a ton of work in it. The business model that I had been sold was rubbish, actually. I hired a couple of really very qualified VCs, personal PAs, sorry. I hired a couple highly recommended PAs, and they were fabulous. They did an outstanding job for me, and we had a library of pre-developed social media content for the event, 30 days out. I must have spent 4 months on it. But I got ill, Nicole. I got cancer, and I was in the midst of treatment, and it was all getting a bit too much for me, Nicole. So are you clapping the silence me, Nicole? Was it the
No,
dogs?
I'm trying to get my dog to stop barking.
All right, yeah, that's the dogs. That was English humour, Nicole. So I was in the midst of a battle with pancreas cancer, and there were some other things going on as well. But the main thing is that the consultant, he had sold me this concept, and it was nonsense because the secondary speakers didn't really promote. We were constantly on their back to promote this through social media, and they were very resistant. And we had some really good frontline speakers, and I was losing because I was fighting this illness, and I was getting more worked up because I'd asked a lot of friends who weren't charging me to be speakers, and I had got sponsorship. I had got over $25,000 worth of sponsorship.
Wow.
And obviously it's me to build, and the consultant had lost interest because I had paid him about 5,000, but also he was going to get a cut off the profit. And it became obvious to me that he had really no idea. And the thing is, I had been warned by other people that had worked with this consultant. They had given me some warnings that they didn't feel that he was fantastic. And I'd done it because I thought I needed somebody who had experience in this to help me. But he was truly useless, Nicole. He was truly useless. I would like to say something further, but I'm not going to because he might listen to this. And so I'm going to leave it at that, Nicole. But the point was getting people to actually do what they say they're going to do, because I was very upfront with, I was like, and we gave them a ton of pre-developed content. We had a shared library and it was all populated, the text, the images, and they still wouldn't do it, Nicole.
Interesting. Did Pat help as the headliner? Did he
would do? No, that he wouldn't do anything. The deal, he wasn't prepared, and that was made clear to us. Actually, I'm not going to. Well, yeah, it cost me. Pat wanted about $10,000, which I had to pay him 5,000 up front and we came. I'm not going to go into. I didn't know because we had to cancel because of my illness.
Yeah,
we had to cancel it, and the sponsors were really good to me because most of them didn't demand their money back because they could see that I had really done my best, and it was, my illness wasn't down to me. So, but it's left this idea that you're going to get third. I never really and the other thing was that Pat, it was clear that he wouldn't promote it because at the time he was a well-known individual, but he had just got in with Circle.co, and ours was around membership. But it was, community and membership, and he had this. He's an investor in Circle.co, so he made it clear that he would be the lead speaker, but he wouldn't promote it. The problem was some of the other people that agreed as friendship and that they're very, very busy people, and they weren't quite. They were well-known influence individuals, but they were very busy people. So I didn't feel I could ask them to promote it. But the consultant that pushed it, that it was going to be the second-tier speakers that were attracted to be speakers because of the Pat and the 3 to 4 well-known figures around Pat that I'd managed. Well, we had it was a 2-day virtual conference with over 14 to 15 speakers, and none of the 12 of the minors. Could I get them to, my team get them to promote it? No, we couldn't. It was really very difficult situation, and I wasn't well enough. But I think my virtual assistants really went above what I was paying them. They really, really did try with these people, and they just wasn't responsive, Nicole.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. That sounds like kind of all kinds of bad things converging at once.
Well, that's how it normally goes, Nicole.
I get that. And I guess the reason I brought
I would never do a virtual conference again.
I don't blame
I would rather some form of online torture, rather than attempt that again. And the whole, I'm a bit how you promote it. What got me about these secondary presenters, the consultant really sold this to me, and it sounds plausible, but all great cons are. This is my take on it. All great cons are plausible, but I think he knew in his heart And the only thing is that maybe the reason why it didn't work is that the top speaker and the top 4 people underneath, you're better off having a totally commercial arrangement and having it in black and white, how much they're going to promote it. And maybe that's where I went, but I was influenced by this consultant.
Right.
And I think it's only if you're paying people and
Yeah.
it's in a contract and they've got to promote it a certain amount, they're not going to do it. Maybe that's where it went wrong, Nicole.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's bad to spell out expectations ever, but it is hard because it's like sometimes you have people you're friendly with and you're friends with, and oh yeah, it's going to be great and I'm going to do it. But yeah, maybe it does come down to that. I just thought what was interesting is that that they kind of sprinkled these people in this 5 people across this 2-day event. I mean, it sounds like they weren't the majority of the speakers, but it was like they had these people come, and part of, I think, their agreement was talking about it. And that's
maybe, like I say, I was influenced by this consultant that it was going to be the second, and they would want to promote it because we had Pat and I had managed to get 3 or 4 people that were well known online, but maybe the other thing is they didn't directly. But I thought the combination, Henderson from LinkedIn Learning, is one of the best well-known teachers on that platform, so that's a connection. I thought Rob Rowling has a very popular podcast and talks about online marketing, and the secondary speakers had reasonably large audiences. He sold me that they would market it, and no, I think the example you're showing is that he probably had a cast iron agreement with those top 5 people. And in there, and I had been influenced by this consultant and his nonsense.
I think everyone listening has probably been influenced by a consultant in nonsense in some way. So
yeah, I got warned by 2 other people that he was nonsense filled, and I felt I needed the advice of somebody, and he was at a price range that I could afford.
Yeah.
And he seemed very plausible, but I had been pre-warned that there was something missing, and I still went through with it, Nicole.
Sometimes, I mean, you have faith in people. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but I think, I mean, but I'm really glad you shared that story, because I think there's definitely some stuff to be learned from all of us. Like I said, if somebody listening to this has not been influenced by a shady consultant, I mean, nobody has. I mean,
I think the 2, especially the one that really warned me. The reason why I might not have warned the person that warned me was an effective business individual, but somebody that I had observed could be very difficult themselves. Mm-hmm. And extremely demanding to a level which I think was on the verge of being unfair. Yeah. And because I respected that person as a business person, but I didn't totally respect them in the way they managed people, which I had observed, I discounted what he was saying to me to some degree. But I did get another warning, but it wasn't so detailed. Mm-hmm. And so I made a judgment call. So maybe I've been a bit tough on myself. Yeah. I think it's time for us to go for our break, Nicole. All right, and then we can go into some of the other case studies. But I thought I would share that lovely experience with the listeners and viewers. See, it can go wrong for anybody at any time, folks. But you just got to plod on, folks. Absolutely. We're going for a middle break, folks. We will be back in a few moments.
Tired of hosting providers that can't handle high traffic loads? Conversio is here to help. Our platform can handle any amount of traffic, all without slowing down or crashing. With immediate Slack support, performance optimization, and a team that thrives on resolving technical challenges, your e-commerce business is in safe hands. Learn more about Conversio at conversio.com.
This podcast episode is brought to you by Lifter LMS, the leading learning management system solution for WordPress. If you or your client are creating any kind of online course, training-based membership website, or any type of e-learning project, Lifter LMS is the most secure, stable, well-supported solution on the market. Go to lifterlms.com and save 20% at checkout with coupon code podcast20. That's podcast20. Enjoy the rest of your show.
We're coming back. So, Nicole, do you want to tell us about your great online service and what it does? Your trend to send.
Trend to send. Yeah. So if you're like me and are annoyed that we now all have to be video makers on social media, this service is for you. Basically, what I try to do is I find the trends that are going on. I have a little spreadsheet and everything, and I track them across TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And basically, you get twice a week text message from me with a trend that you can easily do, film and edit in less than 15 minutes, and post across multiple platforms for maximum visibility. And what's frustrating is videos I spent hours on versus videos like these trending videos that I spent 15 minutes on. I get twice as many views and interactions on the trending videos, and it's kind of silly. So rather than fighting City Hall, I don't know, I guess we need to join City Hall. So if you want to be more visible online, these trending videos are the way to do it. And I have grown my audience with them. I have increased my engagement with them. So you can check out trendtosend.com if you want to see some example ones and kind of see how it works. And we have pricing tiers where we edit the videos for you and all that. But it starts at $49 a month, and you get 8 trends a month. And if you're posting 8 videos a month, you're doing more than most businesses. So check out trendtosend.com.
Sounds a great service. So, Nico, shall we move forward with some of the other case studies you got to share
so
with
this
us?
Other case study, I really like it because it's about GE, right? And we think about like, oh, GE, I have a vacuum cleaner or a dryer or something. But this particular campaign was around their what is it? Their manufacturing facilities, because they do a lot of commercial work as well. So what they did is they hired 6 Instagram influencers and they made a hashtag, GE InstaWalk, which I'm not sure if I would have picked that hashtag, but it's fine. They're a big company. They know things I don't know. And
it could be worse. It could be hashtag Tesla, couldn't it?
It really could.
I'm sorry, listeners and viewers. I just couldn't resist. So there's English, there's a twisted dark side.
Yeah, I appreciate a twisted dark side. I could use that aspect to myself. So I appreciate you bringing it into this podcast. But basically, so these 6 people posted with this hashtag, and this idea was, let's show GE's manufacturing and get people aware that they do these kind of commercial applications. And they got 8 million extra views and 3,000 new followers off of that campaign. But with this idea, like, you might not have, like, I don't know, a wind turbine to show people on a virtual tour or on a physical tour, but that doesn't mean you can't, how could you potentially do a virtual tour of your membership community, with maybe a group of influencers? Maybe there's a hashtag, and that gives them, I guess, a way to sort of give a virtual tour and show your business to their audiences. And maybe it ends up being that they get a free month trial plus, an X amount of money for producing the content. There's a way, I think, that you could make that sort of work for you and for the influencers that you'd work with. So I just thought that it was an interesting idea to like have this. And what they did was they picked a platform, in their case, Instagram. So I think if you were going to do something like this, you wouldn't want to be like, oh, here's a hashtag and you're going to use it across like 8 social media websites. I think you would pick a website and you would pick a few people and you would do this kind of thing as a sort of virtual tour. I think that could potentially work. What are your thoughts about that, Jonathan? Is that too silly?
No, it sounds a great case study, great way of doing it.
Little creativity there. That's always nice to have. don't know if you want to add anything to it, or if we should move on to case study.
Shall we
3.
move on to the next one?
We can, absolutely.
I think I thought I had said too much in the first half.
No. I think it's nice for people to like hear these kind of things from.
I didn't come across bitter, did I, Nicole?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Like I said, we've all listened to consultants who have told us crappy advice, and we paid way too much money for it. And the thing is, if we all share our experiences, we can all save each other from that heartache.
Yeah, I think the other thing you want to learn, see, I get a lot of people that want to start their membership website and they book a free chat with me. And then I had a couple last week, and I always advise people, you really don't know what's going to really click with your target audience until you get into battle. When you really get that first batch of students in, and you interview them, and you spend a lot more time with those students than you're going to do with when you really get the thin public. But you want to spend a lot more time with that initial batch of students, because you don't matter how much experience you've got around the subject, you're going to be surprised.
Yeah.
You're going to be surprised which bits of the course that they really rave about, and bits that doesn't really register and don't really work. And they're going to be bits that you think they were going to really rave about. And it's happened time after time after time. So that's why you need a course that gets a result, but you don't want to build this war and peace, as I say. But I think it's linked to what you've outlined.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And the thing is, like, you have your students that are going through sort of an initial iteration of the course and giving you feedback, but this is another way to get that kind of feedback, in addition to getting marketing material, created for your offer too, whether you work with a UGC content creator or an influencer. And sometimes people are both. But like I said, there's sort of a delineation that we made at the beginning. But this third case study, I think, will speak to you.
Do you think so?
Yeah, foreshadowing. So essentially what happened is Dell, again, like I was trying to pick, like I said, some pretty non-sexy stuff to promote, because, it's not, and some kind of, like I said, different than consumer product kind of things to talk about. But Dell hired Walter Isaacson, who's, I guess, a former CNN CEO. That was a lot of, and they hired him to do a podcast, a sort of short run podcast of a certain amount of episodes. I think there was 12 or 14. I forgot to write down how many, called Trailblazers. And the idea was Dell wanted to get in front of that podcasting audience, but they didn't want to create the podcast themselves. So what did they do? They found somebody who knew how to make a podcast and who had an audience. And they hired this person to create a series of episodes, basically interviewing, like I said, it was called Trailblazers, and it was all about like innovation and disruption kind of stuff, which is, they're in the tech industry. So that kind of works. But what I was thinking was, what if someone is listening to this podcast and they want to get in front of a podcast audience, but they don't necessarily want to go through and make their own podcast? What if they would hire someone like you who knows how to do podcasts, and you could kind of white label a group of content? So going back to the example of what was it the music coach, or I'm trying to remember who the example.
Oh yes, the lady that is trying to produce a course around stage fright.
Right. Okay. So maybe she says, you know what, I am not interested in podcasting, but maybe I hired Jonathan, and he can interview people who speak publicly and do a series called like the Stage Fright series. And you would do it under her banner, and you would be talking to people about how, they've overcome stage fright, kind of where they started their career and all of that. And basically, as having a podcast, you have people who listen to the initial download right away. And then you have people who discover your podcast and then go back in time and sort of listen to all the episodes. You have these pieces of content, this series that's out there, working for you even after the initial kind of launch period. So I thought that was like a really interesting way to get in front of a new group of people without necessarily having to make the content yourself. What do you think about that approach to maybe marketing a membership website or platform?
I think it could work. I think another methodology. The problem with podcasting, the reason why I do it, I get very few direct sales evidence through my podcasting. The reason why I do it is it builds up influence, and it also, I have direct evidence that it really helps me with my SEO and my written content on both on my website. I've got another online business which I don't talk about, but I've used both concepts, and it really gives the written content and video to it, and also it increases the domain authority if you've got established podcasts. So in SEO terms, search engine optimization terms, that's why I do the podcasting. The only podcast medium that's worked for me to get actual evidence of direct purchases is going on other people's podcasts and then offering a substantial deal, either a discount or some knowledge product, which then I send them a discount to my main product. But some special knowledge product, a free knowledge product, which I've developed, and I've done a round of podcasting. I've booked a round of podcasting, and I've known other people, but you do need some special offer if you want. But I found that has worked. But the only other is YouTube is making videos, and I've made over 1,500 videos now in 2 years. And I've tripled the size of my YouTube channel, but it's been a lot of work. Apart from paid advertising, I think the only area that I think clearly has shown, and I haven't done a very good job of it, and I'm looking at methodologies to do it, is building up your email list and concentrating on your email list. But yeah, I think it could work, but I think going on podcasts as a guest and having good free offering, and then sending them after they obtain the free offering, or offering a direct discount, a special offer, a pre-launch offer, I can see that working for the type of people that are listening to this podcast, Nicole.
That's a good way to do it. And it sounds like that is something people could probably more easily DIY than hiring an influencer to.
Well, I think it depends on their budget, because the thing about that, if you're getting somebody that's got high visibility, some visibility and credibility, and you're doing the video plus the audio, you then can cut up the video part and use it for TikTok, for Instagram, for it will provide a lot of short form video content.
That's true.
Plus, also a lot of people, it's been shown that long form, because most people now are doing, like we do this show, we do it as a audio, but we also do it as a video. Most professional podcasters are now, not all, but most are doing both. They're recording it for video, because then they're cutting it up for short form as well, Nicole.
Yeah, no, for sure. It gives you a lot of options. But if somebody was thinking, okay, I'm like, I don't necessarily know, I want to get in front of a new audience and do a new medium, but I don't know if I want to go through the learning curve of like learning how to podcast, for example. I just thought that was like, like Microsoft's not going to be like, yes, let's hire a podcaster at Microsoft to do this. They were like, oh, like, let's see if this works. Let's, run this as a kind of a podcast campaign, which I thought was sort of an interesting idea.
Yeah.
So yeah. But anyway, so we have 2 more case studies, which I think we can probably get through in our time, but cut me off if you need to.
No, I think we're doing well in the time.
Yeah. So basically, like, this 4th idea I thought was really interesting. And again, like, obviously, like I said in the last episode, influencing is relatively new idea. Like, I think it was just added to the dictionary in 2017, which really feels like a long time ago now, but really wasn't that long ago. But so a lot of these examples are big companies, but that's not to say that we can't take the ideas and sort of modify them for our smaller companies, right? But so this is from Microsoft, and
oh god, the devil.
the devil, right? But basically, I thought this was really cool. So what they wanted to do is they wanted to talk about, they wanted to get in front of new people, and they wanted to promote women in STEM careers. So what they did was they hired National Geographic photographers to do a spotlight about women scientists. They did a series of still photos and sort of profiles in the caption about these women scientists. And it ended up reaching about 91 million people. So it's related to Microsoft, but it kind of associated them in a positive way. And I sort of like how it's like, oh, can you create art around your subject matter and get people to sort of to talk about it and to be aware of it? I thought that was kind of maybe an interesting idea.
No, I really like that one, actually, Nicole. I can really see how that works, because we all think it's very effective what we're talking about, because it works with me all the time. I have a group of people. Mostly, I don't watch American television. I mostly listen to audio books, podcasting. I'm a great consumer of podcasts, and YouTube. And I have a small group of people. I'm interested in WordPress. I'm interested mostly in online marketing. And I have a group of SEO online marketers that I religiously follow, and AI people that are utilizing the best AI technology, because I've got a bit of dyslexia, and AI over the last, it's just helped me so much. So I love it because it's helped me. And I use a lot of AI in producing content for the website, from the social media, and it will help you in producing content, because you probably haven't got the budget to hire people, folks. So I have these groups, but when they're talking about a new product, a new service, I religiously go and have a look at it. And I don't always buy it, but it makes me, because I trust these people, and they've recommended good stuff in the past to me. So I think it's what we're talking about. And it's definitely something that people who are launching a membership site don't normally think about, and they want to, because it works. And I'm an old English geezer, aren't I? I'm as cynical as you can get. So no, not really, am I? But it works with me, and I think it will work for a lot of people, won't it?
Yeah, no, I just liked that it was sort of a sort of creative approach. And I think you might be surprised, but like sometimes having someone like approach creating content in like a more maybe creative way, because obviously, like, whatever we produce when we make these membership platforms, we're so close to it, right? I think it is really valuable to get that kind of outside perspective when you're working with an influencer. Or like I said, it's cool idea to work with AI about it. I hadn't really thought about that angle, but kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Got the next one?
Yeah. And this is the final one that I have, and you might, I basically just kind of wanted to give some ideas of ways to approach kind of an influencer campaign rather than just randomly emailing someone saying, hey, so that you can kind of think about how it would fit into your overall marketing in terms of your membership website. So this one is, and I kind of, this will the SEO of this will speak to you, I think, Jonathan. But remember GoToMeeting?
Yeah.
Okay, so GoToMeeting, still a thing, and this kind of was happening during COVID when obviously Zoom and other platforms were kind of like starting to get ahead. They wanted more people to get into their, there's a free version of GoToMeeting and there's a paid version. And obviously they wanted to get some people into the paid version. So what they did, as the market was becoming saturated with options, they wanted to drive the signups through the paid accounts. And so what they did was they worked with relevant content publications and they offered a 3-month cost per acquisition increase in exchange for a blog post or a review. So basically it's like, okay, we get this, you write on your website about GoToMeeting and we will, increase the amount of money that we're paying, off of maybe an affiliate or something like that. And they got a 725% increase in paid accounts over that period. Wow. And their number of trial signups went up 701%. But the other thing that they got from it, which the article didn't really touch on, was they got all of these websites, right, talking about them and linking back to them, which is, as that's even if you're making less money per transaction, sometimes getting that link back might be worth it. I figured we have some SEO thoughts about this.
Yeah, but that's the other great thing about going on other people's podcasts, because then, like my other podcast, the WP-Tonic, it's an interview podcast. Mm-hmm. So I always do show notes. I do show notes here as well, which has a link to your 2 products, Nicole. And I have a domain authority of 65, which is right. Every guest that goes on my other podcasts, I have show notes and I link to their product, or if they're not got a product, I link it to their LinkedIn profile. But most of them come on the show because they want to talk about their product or service, whatever. And it's a great way of building quality links to your website, because my experience, every day I get SEO companies saying, can you write about our product, or can we do a guest post? And I must get them every day. And it's very hard to, I'm not going to say black hat, but it's more grey hat. Mm-hmm. There's been a host of techniques getting, there's a number of quasi-news, business news website. The well-known one is Forbes. They were notorious about buying allowing links, but that they've been hammered and a lot. And there was like news sites based in India and blah blah blah. Yeah. But they all get cracked down. But really building quality backlinks is extremely difficult. Legit ones. Yeah. But going on people's podcasts is a really legit methodology in getting those type of backlinks. And if they're linked, those websites you're going on are linked to your particular audience, mm-hmm. they're probably going to be the type that makes sense to Google.
Yeah.
So it kind of all works, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Can I tell you one of the reasons why I wanted to have this discussion? These two. I was really. Do you know Nathan Barry, the founder of ConvertKit, renamed now Kit? He did an interview and he was talking because he got into, I think his background is in design and UX design and design in general. And he made a considerable amount of money in building educational products around how to develop modern day UX interfaces. And he managed to sell a lot of online books on the subject where there was a great shortage of knowledge. We're talking about 10 years ago. And he became quite a big influencer. And then he developed ConvertKit. And for a couple of years, he did an interview, and he was saying in the interview, and it's registered with me, because he's a particular, I've met him a couple of times. I've never persuaded him to come on my other podcast. He's got close, but both times where I got close, he bailed on me. So I've given up. But he's a pretty smart dude. And he's been interviewed on a podcast, and he said, he developed ConvertKit, and it was running for a couple of years, and it was making about 50,000 a year. It was just about breaking even, basically. He had a couple of part-time people, and he was spending more time on building more of these information products, and he wasn't really spending attention on kit. And then he had a conversation with one of his mentors, and he started complaining about what he wasn't getting anywhere with ConvertKit. It seemed stagnant. It was on his third year now, and it was actually slowly going down from the high point of 50,000. It was gradually going down through what is called churn, folks. And he was complaining to his mentor, and his mentor said, well, you need to either give up on it, or you need to concentrate your maximum attention on it. It's not going to grow unless you really focus on it. And it kind of woke him up. And he was saying the main way he really got the ball rolling with ConvertKit was through influencer marketing, mixing it with affiliate marketing, really personally going to he was taken seriously because he had a following through his info products. Yeah. So people would take having a Zoom with him or having a meeting with him. But he said he only really got it starting to really grow through really having a worked out strategy around influencer marketing and affiliate marketing, and that's always stuck in my memory banks, Nicole.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. There's only so much that you can talk about, like your own, product or service. And at a certain point, you got to start having other people or other ways to talk about it. And it sounds like influencer and affiliate marketing models have worked for a variety of folks. And as long as you're kind of flexible in your approach, you might find a way that will work for your objectives and your budget.
Right, Nicole, what's the best way for people to find out more about you and what you're up to, Nicole?
Yeah, so if you go to technicalsupport.com, you'll see basically all my social links there, as well as, all of my other content on that site.
Yeah, I think next week, folks, I think Nicole's agreed to this. We're going to be talking about email marketing, buying lists, the whole area.
Yeah.
I think Nicole's got some opinions and views. I've got some. It should be a great show. I've actually really enjoyed this show. I think we've covered some great insights.
I like how you say it like you're surprised. Like, I really enjoyed the show.
No, it's just my Englishness, Nicole. You must remember I'm not American. I've been living here. I always I might stay here. I don't plan to stay in America. I think in the next couple of years I'll be moving on. Hey, but if I do decide, I'll always be English. I'll always be British. It's what I was brought up in. And I didn't move into America until I was 42. So the bulk of my years has been in the UK. So, but we might share a common language.
Absolutely.
But we are a bit different. Right?
And that's what makes it work.
Yeah, there you go. Hopefully you found this really useful, folks. If you did get some feedback, go to the WP-Tonic YouTube channel, go to Nicole's YouTube channel, give us some feedback, email us, whatever. And I think it's been a great discussion. Hopefully you've got some ideas from this to market your own membership business. We'll be back next week, folks. Bye.